Most people are not thinking, they are rationalizing. And this single fact explains why modern society feels so divided, so stupid, and so impossible to talk to. People don't disagree because they lack information. They disagree because their brain is not designed to search for truth. They are designed to defend decision that has already been made. Let me explain. Humans are extremely good at explaining themselves, but that does not mean we are good at thinking. Thinking and rationalizing are not the same thing. Thinking means you are willing to be wrong. Rationalizing means you already acted, already believed, already choose, and now you need a story that makes it feel justified. And now you need a story to make it feel justified. And there's the uncomfortable part. Rationalization is not a bug. It's one of the most successful survival strategies human has ever evolved. For most of human's history, the world was simple, dangerous, and fast. There were no time to sit down and analyze. Food was scarce. Threats were immediate. Hesitation could get you killed. In that environment, the best strategy is not critical thinking. The best strategy is see something and then react quickly, act decisively, and afterwards convince yourself and your group that it was the right choice. And that is rationalization. It keeps you moving, reduces internal conflict, maintains group cohesion. From an evolutionary perspective, that's perfect. You didn't need logic to survive. You didn't need deep reasoning to reproduce. You didn't need to understand reality accurately. You just need to function well enough inside your tribe. So natural selection never removes rationalization. In fact, it rewarded it, which is why most humans today are still wired to rationalize by default. Now here's where modern society breaks everything. The world today is not simple. It is abstract, it's slow-moving, it's deeply interconnected. Action have delayed consequences, mistakes don't punish you immediately, and information is infinite. But our brain are still running the old software. So instead of carefully thinking through complex system, people do what their brain evolved to do. They pick a position emotionally, and they search for reason to defend it. That's why debates goes nowhere. That's why people talk past each other. That's why facts rarely change people's mind. Because the goal was never truth. The goal was psychological stability. And this creates a strange question. If rationalization is such a powerful survival strategy, why do some humans generally think? Why do some people question themselves, analyze the system, doubt their beliefs, and sit with uncertainty? The answer comes from two places. The first one is boredom. I've actually made an entire video about boredom if you want to check it out in my bio, but here's the short version. When a human being is safe, fed, and not under immediate threat, something interesting happens. They get bored. Boredom is excessive energy that has nowhere to go. In early human history, boredom was rare. Survival consumed everything. But when food becomes stable, shelter becomes reliable, and danger becomes occasional, boredom starts appearing. And boredom does something dangerous. It forces the brain to look forward. What should I do next? Is this all? What happens if I change something? This is where real thinking begins. Not because humans love truth, but because brains suddenly have spare capacity. Thinking is what happens when survival pressure drops and mental energy has nowhere else to go. That's why philosophy, art, science, and long-term planning all emerges in societies where people are relatively secure, not being relatively happy or fulfilled, but at least they are not starving anymore. The second reason is evolution. For most human evolution, you did not need to think deeply to pass on your genes. So both types of humans survived. Those who relied on intuition and rationalization, and those who occasionally stopped and thought. But here's the key point. Civilization changed faster than evolution ever could. Agriculture has existed for maybe 10,000 years, industrial society for a few hundred, and digital world for only a few decades. And that is nothing in evolutionary time. Even if logical thinkers have a slightly higher success rate today, the selection pressure is weak and extremely low, which means this: humanity will always contain a large number of people who are naturally inclined to rationalize rather than think, not because they're stupid or evil, but because most of our history, that strategy works, and in many environments, it still does. The real problem is not that people rationalize. The problem is that modern society assumes they won't. We build systems that requires long-term reasoning, abstract understanding, and self-criticism. Then we are surprised when emotions take over. If you feel frustrated, talking to people, this might help. They are not failing to think. They're doing exactly what the brain are optimized to do. Thinking is too expensive, very uncomfortable, and it creates doubts. Rationalization is cheap, it makes you feel good, and rationalization protects identity. So if you want to think better, the solution is not to try harder, it's to create conditions where thinking becomes unavoidable. You have put yourself in a place where there is less noise, less instant stimulation, more boredom, more silence, and more time without immediate rewards. Because thinking does not come from intelligence alone, it comes from having enough safety and enough boredom to let your brain wander into uncomfortable territories. If this video makes you see human behavior a little differently, consider liking and subscribing. I'll keep breaking down how evolution, psychology, and the modern life quietly shapes the way we think. See you on the next one.